Hi, good morning, namaste. Uh, from time to time, I like to share anecdotes, personal occurrences in my life, just because it kind of has relevancy. I like to, as I said before, this is a documentation. This is my spiritual video autobiography, lifetime work, 60 years meditation at least. Uh, and all the trials and tribulation. But sometimes I like to personalize it with an anecdote. And I had one that led me to this, the title of today's sharing. My brother has got so many virtues. And he's got his vices, like all of us too, shortcomings. But he gets pedantic. He gets on a diatribe. And something triggers it, and then it's just sit back and watch and wait for it to run its course, because it's coming. Okay, no stopping it. It's best to watch it in a constant state of bemusement, with a straight face, like you haven't heard this before, or you don't know it's coming, or you're unprepared, because it's an unstoppable force. So we were sitting down having a coffee, cappuccino, and some great pasta at one of my favorite local restaurants up in near a village. Great pasta. They really make a mean cup of espresso. Beautiful view, sitting on the patio overlooking the riverbed, the mountains, and just beautiful people. A retired police officer married a local indigenous lady, and they opened it up, this brunch place. It's, again, a favorite. And we started talking to somebody that had pretty good English sitting nearby us. It was by himself, and he liked the practice with three foreigners, so it was a little bit chilly, so we went inside, and he followed us and sat down, and talking about Taiwan and how we like it, and just practicing. And then something came up, and all the things that my brother had accumulated, that he finds less than acceptable, that stick in his craw, that bother him about Taiwanese behavior. And he started his diatribe. Blah, 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 blah. No stopping. And pretty adamant. And he's loud. Okay? And the Taiwanese is, first of all, he can't keep up with it. And second of all, he's just politely smiling and looking for exit stage right. He's looking how to get out of this circumstance, because he wasn't prepared for the floodgates that opened. Meanwhile, Rob, a good friend, and I were sitting there, kicked back, enjoying our espresso, just kind of feeling for the Taiwanese guy, but also understanding that there is no really stopping, because there's no pause. It's just bile that needs to be spewed sometimes. It's kind of cathartic to spill your bile. And so my brother, who we both love dearly, was spilling his bile to the less than fortunate Taiwanese witness, trapped witness, looking for a polite way out. And when my brother reached the point that it kind of the steamrolling, the kind of the adamancy, was losing its momentum. And I just sat back and I looked over at Rob and said, "Be that as it may." And Rob cracked up, and my brother got it. And then meanwhile we laughed, and the Taiwanese guy took an opportunity to get the hell out of Dodge. It just practically sprinted out of the place. And it just wasn't appreciated. Today's lesson is in honor of that occurrence that I just shared. The last 5 minutes has been sharing. Be that as it may. And I'm suggesting that this is a attitude that will help in your building of acceptance and your helplessness to really stop the momentum of causality, the momentum of the moment, the moments that led up to the moment that is resulting in maybe uncomfortable, less than desirable circumstances to deal with. Be that as it may. For my Taiwanese listeners, they probably won't understand that, but it's kind of a que sera, sera, which is Spanish for what will be, will be. Be that as it may was a perfect diffuser. It just de-escalated all the pedantic, the adamancy, the enthusiasm, the vested, the spilling of the bile. And my brother got it. And he was laughing at himself. So that has become kind of our byword when one of us, and I'm equally, as is Rob, equally capable of getting into our little personal pet peeves. I have my list. And so now we can intercede a little bit quicker. We don't have to suffer through everything because nobody. It's cathartic, it's cleansing, it's helpful for the person that's spilling out the bile. But probably it's better to speak into the mirror. Tell it to yourself, because no one wants to hear that stuff, But again, we all have our personal grievances, and being a foreigner in a stranger in a strange land, and especially having been here for a while, things would sometimes build up and just need to run its course. And I have friends like Buffalo who are willing to just listen, maybe for the 55th time, and doesn't offer much, just waits till I run out of steam and then we pause and move on. But I haven't really taught Buffalo. That reminds me, next time I see him, be that as it may. It'll be good practice for me to try to convey this kind of idiom expression, very American expression, I guess, Western expression probably, and not a common one, but it's a beautiful turn of words. Be that as it may. It feels good. And I'm suggesting here that might help us in our own trials and tribulations to really understand. In the heat of the moment, it's hard to understand that all things pass. When we're stuck in something, it seems like it's forever. But rest assured, time marches on. All things will change. It's an immutable truthhood of life. So maybe in this moment you're stuck in it, but reckon, be that as it may. And this is a good time to consider the following message that I'm going to share with you, that I wrote down previously, and sometimes I like to write, most of the time I like to create as I'm sharing with you, but sometimes the Spirit moves me to write something. So here's something. Awakening is awakening to not being a doer. Awakening is awakening to that you're not a doer. And I talked about this many times. Human being, not a human doing. The sacred reality is here in its entirety whenever we acknowledge it. That's all it takes. Wake up from the dream to recognize and say, aha, spiritual reality is always here. All we have to simply do is acknowledge it. Okay, that's it. We've always been one. We'll always be one. One with the oneness, the allness, the blessed, the infinity. All we have to do is simply acknowledge it. We're all awake, we're all aware, we're all Buddhas. You just have to acknowledge it. Aha, I'm not separate, there's no division. These are antics of the trickster, the egoic trickster. All cultures have a trickster, someone that's bound to fail you. And I would take this, each of us have a trickster, and our trickster is our own ego that promotes the power of our own thinking. It sustains, promotes, propagates our own false idea of reality, of self, of separateness. Here's what Philip K. Dick, he's a science fiction author, acknowledged one of the greatest, one of my favorites. I wrote this down because I loved it. This is a quote from him. Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. So, I've mentioned before, let's stop believing in anything. And what remains? And according to Dick, which I agree, Philip K. Dick, it passed the litmus test. Well, if you want to know what's real, stop believing in anything, doubt, question. And what remains after you stop believing and doesn't go away is reality. There is no getting away. Now I'm continuing. There's no getting away from itself in order to get back to itself. So you don't have to escape it. You don't have to escape reality to get to reality. There's no getting away from itself in order to get back to itself. You can't discard reality. You just have to recognize and accept it. There's only consciousness, nothing else. Now that's a basic, simplicity. All there is all there is. All there is consciousness, awareness, awakened, Buddhahood, perfection, a joyful, infinite existence, a non-linear, the space-time consistency, the fabric of the reality of reality. There is only consciousness and nothing else. Nor was anything lost. People think, oh, I lost myself in the mix of this, You don't lose. But it's interesting because now herein lies the rub, as they would say. Consciousness created the universe and multiple points of view. So consciousness itself is testing us. Our reasons of existence is to come back and to rediscover. We have to unburden, we have to deal with people, places, things that we are karmically tied with. We have to do our best to resolve them. If there's no resolution, we have to let it go. So these multiple points of view, because I think somehow consciousness has a sense of humor. Well, let's really screw with these people. Give them all these different points of view, so that they have an opportunity. Now look at this. Why do you have all this? This seems like a burden to have all these different points of view. But here's the joy of it: to experience and then play with within the universe created. So to create this is like a playground. Teeter-totters, swing sets, slides. It's a recreational area that's provided for your amusement and your edification eventually. Kind of like how every night you experience this dreaming at night. You experience this when dreaming every night. It's like an opportunity to live in this kind of magic kingdom, as Disneyland calls itself. Magic kingdom of imagination. You create another world filled with plants, animals, and people, yet you are the entirety of the dream. It's your dream. Without you, all these things that you created in sleeping state don't exist. Well, it's just trying to show you that in the so-called waking state, my eyes are open. I think I'm awake. Could be dreaming. I am dreaming, in fact, because what I've created around me is no more real than what I create in the dream. If you dream you were being chased by someone down an alley, you are really chasing yourself. So remember, in your dream, someone's chasing me. Well, that's you, yourself, chasing you. There is no one else in the dream. There's only you. It's all arising from one consciousness. Okay. Someone's chasing you. It can only be you because there's nothing else. It all came from you created this dream world. Just as we somehow we're freed in a dream that, okay, this is a dream, even if you start to wake up with this is a dream, and I'm allowed to, but we don't carry it over to the daytime. See that the dream state continues, that we have the same ability to play in the playground. If you look at it like that, all this reality, these things around us, came from one consciousness, as there's no other source. And we've individuated it. We've embraced separation and division and supported this trickster known as illusion of ego. In the hopes, I think, that we're worried about control. Hey, get over it. Nothing is in your control. Got it? I'll say it again. Nothing is within your control. You control nothing. You can make an attempt to control how you react to the fact that you don't control anything. In fact, you can do a lot of work. And herein lies the spiritual work. To realize that it's inevitable. What will be, will be. And what you can work on is your reaction to, your response to, your acceptance of, your willingness to start beginning the process of piercing the veil of illusion, the veil of Maya, the veil of separation and division. Why dream of just remaining in deep dreamless sleep? Why do we dream during nighttime? And why are we just dreamless? Maybe sleeping could truly be this escape that many of us hope it can be, that would be dreamless. But we have this innate human characteristic because we have a will to experience, to play. But when the dream is created, you don't lose yourself because you're still there. You're still there. You know it. Nor is dream a torture in yourself in the search to get back to itself. It's all just pointing to how I end this. There is only consciousness and nothing else. So we dream to teach us that we're in control of our dream, that we're the source of our dream. And this is supposed to translate, hopefully, sooner or later will translate to the understanding in the so-called waking state, even though we're in a state of constant forgetfulness, we're sound asleep. That's what waking up means, is waking up to what you've always been. Remembering the forgotten is my favorite way to say it. So dreaming is not a torturous event. Dreaming is serving a purpose. It's stressing the search. In the dream, you seek for yourself, and then you can rest it. Oh yeah, I made this all up. Then you wake up and you're in the biggest dream. And what we're trying to share here is that you need to wake up from the dreaming state of awakeness. Wake up from that sense of separation, division. There is only consciousness and nothing else. So I've been on the last 3 or 4, maybe 4, this is the 4th video, maybe talking about things, going for a circle. Maybe it's a little nostalgia on my part because this is number 321 videos. 22. Today is the 322nd half-hour video that I've shared on YouTube these last 4 years. And now I have let's do the math again. I'm sorry, I'm slow in math. I've done 323. So 10 more to go. Yay! 10 more to go. And I've mentioned before, then I'm going to devote myself solely to, number 1, spending more time in silent reflection. Number 2, working solely with my small group of people that have the universe has provided, have been attracted to me for whatever reason, in seeing me that I might have something by sharing my experiences, by hopefully pointing the way, which is the best a teacher can ever hope for, that others too will share the joy of being reunited, of waking from the dream, of living in a constant state of joyfulness, of equanimity. Equanimity means the same reaction to everything. Kind of a flat line, you know? Not this and this and this and this and this. Kind of, oh. A lot of times, the test for me is sometimes I wake up in the morning and I never know if I really don't know if I'm a good mood or a bad mood. And now that I've been married these last 7 years, I spent 33 years single. So the first, maybe I go for breakfast or I go to the grocery store and I see the neighbor. And based on my response, how I responded to them, I could figure out how I felt. And that's weird, I know. I had no idea if I'm in a good mood or a bad mood when I wake up in the morning until I speak to someone. And then I'll just say to myself, oh, I'm in a bad mood. And just kind of recognize it and go with it and see if I can find my way through it, because it's not a way to spend the day if I can reunite with the ever-present joyfulness. So I don't know how you judge Maybe you know I'm in a bad mood. Maybe you wake up knowing. I don't. Totally unaware. And it's only the tone of my voice and how I react to the other, to the outside, to the illusion of those that are outside of myself. So I'm really reacting to myself, but it gives me, it's kind of a mirror, you know. And then I've got my chores. And you know, sometimes we slip and slide. And I remember to remind you that that's when we need to stop, and we need to constantly recognize and forgive ourselves, constantly. Until we completely forgive ourselves, there's no hope for giving true forgiveness of anything or anyone else. Everything starts at home. And you know, I wrestle with the fact that seems pretty selfish, but if that's it, that's it. My naming it selfishness just reflects, again, the illusion of me. I want to be a nice guy. I want to be liked. I think, well, there's some people that don't want to be liked, I know, but I think there's an innate, unless we're so full of ourselves, you know, that we don't need any outside recognition. Most people need to be liked. Most people need for other people to like them, you know, and that's a kind of a vain hope, isn't it? When you look around and you realize that, oh, geez, no matter what, the neighbor's not gonna like me. Maybe I'm the Wygoran, you know, the Maygoran. The Maygoran's American, Wygoran's foreigner, and I'm surrounded by Taiwanese, as I always am here. And some people don't notice, but generally, you know, white-skinned dudes in a sea of olive skin, yellow, of a different environment, stand out. And that's why I'm so conscious of my behavior, because my taking the COVID vaccine, making sure I don't litter, making sure I pick up an extra piece of trash, make sure that I conduct myself in public in a polite and considerate way, because, like it or not, I bear the burden of being a foreigner. And whatever I do, just as whatever end of the foreigner does, leads to the idea of what we're like. They're very observant. And the fun part of it, this whole thing, is that as long as you're cordial, no one cares, because you've quickly learned that anything that is bar running down the street naked, anything that you do is of little or no concern unless you yell at somebody or it's a personally affects them. But whatever I do is just for their amusement, because there isn't, you know, it's beyond their limited purview, their limited worldview. They're very self-centered. Taiwan is it. This tiny little island is the whole world. And then, you know, you can look at the newspaper, and international news is 1 minute, 99 minutes is just a rehash of. It's like bagua, you know. Their bagua just means gossip, and the old ladies get together and they gossip. They repeat themselves continually, you know. And it's all so limited to this, because I believe that anything beyond their cultures, their way of thinking, their way of life is not worth even considering. So, as a teacher for 20 years at a university, top-level university, I realized that any feedback, I was never asked, by the way, in 20 years, no one ever asked me in a faculty meeting with my colleagues, no one ever asked me how I felt or what I thought about a particular situation, much less if I had any suggestions of another way to do it, if I could add to the conversation. Was never considered, because it was simply beyond the pale that a foreigner would have anything to say of any value for the chosen ones themselves. So it was liberating. All they really wanted from me was smile and say, everything is fine, everything is perfect. And I can say that because I didn't really care, and it liberated me. I didn't have any axe to grind. I didn't have any agenda. I certainly didn't want to participate in their power struggles. Not qualified, first of all. As a colleague told me years ago, stay out of the politics, and politics are pervasive. They're everywhere. In the university, it's undeniable. Stay out of them. Don't volunteer. Don't suggest. And this is pretty much their own credo, but they're sharing. You're never going to get anywhere. And I've talked to disgruntled foreigners, because that's kind of what foreigners are, is disgruntled. And some in the university position, they still believe that something that they could say would help in any such way. Be it criticism, observation, and all it amounts to is, you know what? You're kind of a pain in the ass. Keep your suggestions, keep your particularly criticism, they're very thin-skinned. Keep it to yourself. Smile and say everything was okay. And you know what? It worked. It got to the point like we would have weekly meetings, and I was in the foreign language department. Okay, we'd have weekly meetings where all the professors would get together, and my office luckily opened up into the area, the couches, the area what was designated for the meeting, and I kind of created. I was able to create and teach what I wanted, as long as I didn't tell anybody, make waves, and as long as the students gave me good recommendation. So my door would be open, and I could, we always got a lunch. They had it at lunchtime. They'd bring me a lunch, so I got a free lunch. Sit in my office with my door open, and the meeting could proceed. And everybody was thankful, because if I'm there, they feel that obligation to translate to English. And despite my protestations, saying, I don't really, you don't have to. This one allowed it to have their meeting in Chinese and get the meeting over in half the time it would take them if they had to try to conduct the meeting in English. Because the truth was, even in the foreign language department, the older professors, the younger ones were educated overseas, but the older ones, English was really poor, even though they were English instructors. So, get along and smile.